Okay, hi Mitch, how you going?
Good, thanks, Pato, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on, and congratulations on your last one standing performance at I'm Still Standing.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. How long have you been running for, and how did you get into it?
Probably been running, I'm going to say seriously, for probably about 5 years, maybe 4 years. Probably a little bit less, actually, probably 3.5, 4 years when I signed up for Goldie Marathon
Yeah,
up on the Gold Coast. And then, as you know, about 3 or 4 years ago, COVID was around. So that got canned. And then eventually did one the following year up there. And then sort of only really got into the ultra marathons and the backyard ultras last year was the first one.
yeah,
Did Maroubra and the Clint Eastwood one. But yeah, so started running about probably about 3.5 years ago, and then just on and off really before then.
yeah. And when you started getting more serious into running before you started your backyard ultra kind of running, were you
Yep.
setting more time-based goals like running fast marathons or fast 5Ks and stuff like that? Is that what you were focused on then?
Yeah, so marathons was the main goal then. To go sub 3 was the main one.
Yeah.
And yes, I had a couple of cracks at the marathon, and then yes, slowly transitioned into the backyard format last year.
Yeah. And did you go sub 3?
So yeah, I did. The first one that got cancelled, which we did virtually. So we just had to do it around where we lived. I did 3:01,
Ooh,
and then the following year we got up to Goldie and did it. I did 2:57,
yeah.
and went back and did the double the year after, which was the half marathon on the Saturday and then the full on the Sunday.
Yeah.
And I did 2:47 in the full on the Sunday.
Wow. After running the half the day before.
Yeah, so I did the half the day before, which was an hour 20 from memory. And then, yeah, 2:47 on the Sunday.
Yeah, cool. So I had a look at your Strava, and it appears as though you really took your running to another level last year. You ran almost 8,000 kilometers, was almost double the year before. So what was the catalyst for that increase?
Yeah, so yeah, I got actually the 8,000 on New Year's Eve,
Right.
the last day of the year. But yeah, that was basically just with training for the backyard ultra. I slowed a lot of the running down, increased the volume. Obviously, that was over a longer period of time. I didn't start running that much per week at the start of the year. Sort of gradually added as the year went on. Did the backyard ultra in March with Maroubra last year, and then obviously added some Ks. The goal was originally to do Coast to Cozy last year,
Right.
and I wasn't actually going to do the Clint Eastwood one. I was going to do the Southern Sydney
Yeah.
24-hour track event, but they were having some issues getting a track ratified because they were doing the I think the 48-hour Australian Championships or something, and they couldn't quite get it ratified. And then it ended up being raced after the cutoff period for Coast to Cozy. So then I just did Clint Eastwood because I had a mate that was going up there and doing it, so we just jumped in on that and did that as well. But yeah, slowly ramped it up last year, and then probably tracking about the same this year.
Yeah. So you've mentioned Maroubra. That is the same as I'm Still Standing, right?
Yeah, yeah, same one. That was the one we did last year for the first time in its first year, and then we went again and did it this year.
Yep, awesome. So increasing your distance like that, like it can pose some risks injury wise. So how did you do it? Like, I mean, you obviously did it the right way. So how did you actually do it to stay injury free?
Firstly, I did it slowly. Like I obviously dropped the pace back a little bit. So during the marathons, I was probably doing most of my running, 4:30 pace, 4:45 pace, just for everyday run, and then I dropped that back to probably 5:15, 5:20s.
Yeah,
Slowed it down a lot. A lot of sleep. I think a lot of people, spend a lot of money on your ice baths, your recovery boots, and massage guns and everything, but if you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you're probably selling yourself a little bit short there. So sleep was a big thing. And then, yeah, just slowly ramping up, slow runs, zone 2. I know that's the big hype at the moment. But yeah, staying in that easier zone. So therefore I could increase the volume without getting any injured.
yeah. And did you do anything like change your diet or make sure you were eating more calories or anything like that as well?
That's another good point. So they're probably the two biggest things was enough sleep and enough food.
Yeah,
I didn't necessarily eat more, so to speak. But I just ate enough. I'd quite regularly track my weight. If I'm seeing I'm dropping it, I'll make sure I eat some more. If I see it's going up, obviously bring it back down. But I generally didn't really count calories or anything like that. I just made sure I ate enough carbohydrates in and around my training. And yeah, as I said, sleep and food, two biggest ones.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to ask, what about weight training? Did you like adjust how you were weight training? Because I know you're a personal trainer, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, what were you doing as far as weight training? Did you change how you're doing that side of things as well?
Yeah, so changed it a little bit. Just a few more I was always prone during the marathon training to a bit of hamstring injuries, not injuries, but tightness. That would be the first thing that would tighten up. So just adding some running specific exercises in relation to that. Anywhere if I felt a niggle, I felt that would be tight or sore, again, I'd do some research, find some exercises for that. But yeah, I've been doing weight training for 15 years now. So yeah, that's always been a big thing in my program, is to keep up the strength training regardless of what you're training for mainly for injury prevention. And obviously, the stronger you are, right, the stronger runner you are. So yeah, that played a big role in it too.
Yeah, cool. And when did you realize you wanted to, or what was the reason, or how did you realize that you wanted to get more involved in the ultra side of things? Like, was for me, like I was Goggins pretty much was what opened up my eyes to the ultra running world. So, how did you get into it?
Good question. Don't get me wrong, I've listened to a fair bit of Goggins over my years. But I think I've seen a lot of it on social media with Phil Gore, Sam Harvey and things like that. And then I thought it's an interesting concept. It's better than, going out and running just 100 miles or whatever. Seems like a cool sort of event. And then one opened up, obviously in Maroubra, which is half an hour away from us. And then, yeah, met the race directors, Lisa and Grant, which they run it absolutely awesomely. So, yeah, met them, went out there, and we sort of jumped on board with it. We had about 7 or 8 of us last year do it from our run group.
Yeah.
And then the same again this year. We went back, and yeah.
Awesome. And did you play any, like when you were a kid, did you play any team sports or anything like that?
Yeah, played a fair bit of cricket, a bit of soccer, a bit of rugby league, the standards. But I wasn't fit by any stretch of the imagination back then. I probably only really got into fitness when I started doing PT about 2011, I think, so about 14 years. And that's probably when the fitness started to become more of a priority, and then slowly got into running a few years later. And then, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Now, is it correct that that your 3 official ultras are all backyard ultras? You haven't run any other types of ultras other than backyards?
Yeah, that's true. Yep, just those 3.
Yeah, and what attracted you to the backyard ultra format?
It was probably a mixture of things. Probably the unique concept of it all, and the fact that it's everyone can run 6.7. Well, most people can run 6.7 k's in an hour, right? You can almost walk it. So the whole uniqueness of it, and then it's not just physical; it comes down a lot mental, obviously, because everyone's hurting after 10, 15, 20 hours, right, of running. So a lot of it comes down to the mental aspect of it too. And it was also a lot more inclusive. Like if I was to go out and say, do a 100 miler, that, reduces a lot of people that could potentially do it. And so we've got a big run group. So doing something like that was opened up to a lot more people. And then we had people, run their first 30K ever at the Backyard Ultra, run their first marathon at the Backyard Ultra. Just opened it up to a lot more people in our community, which was good. And then we could have a few more people buy in, a few more people out there running laps with us.
Yeah, cool. So at the first one you did last year at I'm Still Standing, you did that with like your run group. Quite a few of them were involved in it.
There was, I think from memory, 7 or 8 roughly that did it. And then, yeah, we had my partner, my fiance actually was the last female standing with 24 hours. And then another guy, Johnny, he was the last man standing with 36, and then I was 32. And then, yeah, this year, probably about 3 or 4 that did it last year did it again, and then another 3 extras did it this year.
Yeah, unreal. So tell me a bit about how the race went down for you last year. I mean, 32 on debut in your first Backyard Ultra. That's awesome. So, I mean, you must have been, I'm pretty sure it was another warm one as well. So, yeah, how did that race go down?
That was actually that had all seasons, that one last year. actually had like monsoon weather that first night, to the point where we were running in, shin deep water. And then like it was hot early on, and then it was bucketing down overnight, and that wiped out quite a few people, I think. And the sprinklers came on, and they were shooting you in the face. Like it was a bit all over the shop last year with the weather. And then the next morning came, and it was hot again. It was but yeah, I wasn't too happy because my legs felt really good after it. Like at the end of the 32 hours, my legs were amazing. I still felt really good. But I had stomach issues basically the whole night, which that pulled me back a lot. And then I also, due to the rain, I had probably some of the worst chafe you'll ever come across. So it was a tough one. So like the more I ran, the more the chafe would hurt. The more I walked, sorry, the other way around. The more I ran, the more the stomach would hurt. The more I walked, the more the chafe would hurt. So I could have probably put up with one or the other, but not both of them. And then at 32, after about 8 or 10 hours of stomach pains and stuff like that, I was like, nah, I'm done. And that was it, unfortunately. But I knew I had more in me because my legs felt really good, which was a positive. But yeah, unfortunately, the stomach issues popped their head up, and it was the end of me.
Yeah. And what were your main takeaways from that race? Like, did you pinpoint what caused the stomach issues or anything like that?
I had a bit of a play around with it, but unfortunately I didn't because they reared their head again up at Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
And then after that one was when I reached out to Gabby from Intense Sea Fit, and unbelievable change. Obviously, I had had a little bit of issues in this one, but chalk and cheese. Like she got on top of it. She identified it was probably too much fats in the diet on the race day, which we got rid of some of that. Like there was some pesto pastas and things like that. We got rid of some pizza. We got rid of that, and really cut down to really super low fat throughout the duration of the run, and worked wonders.
Yeah, yeah. I saw you posted a bit of a video before the most recent race with you getting your meals ready.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it was very simple for this one, to be honest. There weren't that many different meals. It was like 6 different meals basically on repeat, and that was it. It was all a lot more high carbohydrate, lower fat, and then like nutrition was on point during the lap as well. As I said, Gabby was amazing, which what we went through her Fuel to Thrive program online. Did that, and yeah, chalk and cheese compared to that first one.
yeah. Now it sounds like the first one was a bit of a funny race because of the weather, but was the format harder or easier or about the same as what you expected?
About the same as what I expected, but harder in the sense that the rain just, mate, that night it was relentless. Like it was raining sideways. I don't think I've actually ran in much heavier rain than what we did that day. And then obviously to this year, when we caught 40-degree days, like complete polar opposites to what we had over the 2 years. And I don't know how Lisa and Grant stayed there all night, to be honest. There's no way I was staying there if I wasn't running in that weather. Like we had, tents coming down, things like that. It was ridiculous.
So you mentioned Clint Eastwood before, and it sounds like it was a bit of a late notice kind of race, but you did 21 yards at that one. So how did that race go down? Did you hit your goal in that or?
Nah, nowhere near it. The goal was obviously to go a lot further than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't like, yes, it was a late entry, so to speak, but I was still I was ready. I was still fit because I was still training for a 24-hour event, right? So the volume was definitely still there. The kilometers were in the legs. It was just another issue popped up there. So I've got a nerve issue, which I've had for God knows how long. And it flares up a little bit when I drive. So if I sit in the car for a couple of hours, it'll flare up and I'll get the pains down my legs. So I've got to sort of get out and walk around a little bit, which has never really been an issue. I've ran post-driving before. But then we drove to Brisbane, obviously, because we had all our tent, we had everything, all the food, the eskies and everything. We couldn't really fly with it all. And I didn't think anything of it. And then I'm going to say about 5 hours into the race, it was shooting pains everywhere. Quads were really sore. Knee was playing up. And then the stomach pains hit again. Stomach issues hit. The issue with up there is there's, not that it's a huge issue, but there's no toilets on the track up there. So if you're going to go to the toilet, you're going to get your way back 6.7K. So then I'm running laps a lot quicker than what I wanted to. And then, yeah, it wasn't the best outcome, that one with 21. Wanted to go obviously a lot longer. And then when the nerve issues started playing up and the stomach issues started to play up and I'm not even halfway to where I really want to be, then, yeah, I was getting helped out of the chair and it was done.
Yeah, sure. And how long was the drive? It would have been at least about 5 or 6 hours, right?
Yeah, a little bit longer than that. Yeah, we did it in two stints. So we sort of did. Drove to Coffs the first day, and then went from Coffs up the next day. It
Yeah.
probably also didn't help that the weekend before that I had a wedding down the coast, which was a 6 hour drive as well. So that's 2 weekends back to back. Again, I didn't even think of any of this until after the fact when it played up, and I was speaking to the physio, and he said, "Yep, that tick tick, that's what's going to happen." Which well, now that put a stop to me driving to any races anytime soon. But it was good to know that that was the cause of it. Again, it wasn't anything training related. It wasn't fitness related or anything like that. It was, unfortunately, something that I could control, but I didn't know about. And then, yeah, so then just kept the training, ticking over, knowing that I was going to do the Maroubra one in March this year.
Yeah.
And then kept going.
So, have you thought about like next time you've got to drive a long drive to a race, like how you're going to do it? Like, are you going to like maybe get someone else to drive so you can stick like kind of like
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, probably. I don't think I will drive long unless I'm there a week before it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because then it probably would have time to settle down a little bit. But yeah, there's no way I'll be driving 6, 7, 8, 10 hours and then racing, a day later. Probably get away with the marathon. So as I said, it didn't start hurting until about 6 hours through. But yeah, no backyard ultras or anything like that. I'll be fine and sending my stuff with
yeah,
someone else somehow.
yeah. It just means a little bit of extra planning, I guess.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So one of the best things about backyard ultras, and you kind of touched on it before, is that you're running with so many different people, and you actually get to run side by side with some of the very best runners in the game. So at Clint Eastwood, you had runners like James Blanton, Ryan Crawford, Nachi, and there were other runners who broke 48 hours as well. So what did you take away from Clint Eastwood running with those great runners?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to run with them for very long. I was only up there for, the first day, and then
Yes.
there's so many people that run that event, right? It's such a big event, so
Yeah.
everyone you could tell from lap one, everyone wanted to run with Ryan, everyone wanted to run with James, and mate, hats off to Ryan. He spoke to every single person that wanted to run with him, like everyone, anyone who never put earphones in. Hats off to him. But yeah, just the way they go about it, how their tent was set up, and little things like that. They had everything planned for, and you could tell they were going to be there for days, which was funny. I didn't know if they were going to go that long, considering they had satellites in a few months' time in October. But yeah, they proved me wrong. They just kept going and going and going, gone home, had a sleep, come back, they're still going. But yeah, as I said, I wish I got to pick their brains a little bit more. If I was there day two, I probably could have. But yeah, just seeing how they went about things, how professional they were, definitely opened my eyes up a little bit.
Yeah, I was surprised that they went for as long as they did as well because of that satellite champs thing. I expected them to finish at 61 because that would have broken the course record. I couldn't believe it. They kept
Yeah.
going and going. So did you stuck around and did you stay till the end or you just went?
Well, as I said, we planned to go a lot longer on the run. So we had an Airbnb booked for another couple of days. So yeah, we're still there at the end. Again, it started bucketing down rain a couple of days in. We sort of went to and from the race. We weren't there the whole time. We weren't at the Airbnb the whole time. So yeah, we were there for bits of it, and then we were back home for little bits of it.
Yeah. Was John Berry the other guy who
Yep.
who you went there with?
Yeah, so he was the one that won the initial Maroubra one last year, and then this year he was the assist, and then yeah, me and him went up to Clint Eastwood last year as well.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm still standing 2025 with two backyard ultras under your belt worth of experience there. Like, what were the most significant changes you made leading into the race as far as the race plan and tactics go?
I think the biggest one would have been the nutrition side of it, that we worked with Gabby. Training wise, I didn't change that much. Did a couple more practice runs, like every hour on the hour loops, which we did that last time. We just did a couple more, but that was more for the nutrition side of it to practice that, rather than necessarily to practice the format. We did that, and then yeah, the biggest thing was the plan of the food. That was shout out to Gabby again. She had a huge spreadsheet for me every hour. It was well planned out. During the lap nutrition, after the lap nutrition, I think that was the biggest takeaway, and the biggest thing that I changed coming into this year, because the legs were fresh on the other two as well. It was just the stomach, the fueling obviously didn't go to plan the first two.
Yeah. And what about crew? Did you have who did you have crewing with you, and what type of planning did you have with them going into the race?
So, thankfully, but unthankfully, my fiance was actually signed up for it. Was going to obviously run again this year. She hurt her foot probably about maybe 6 weeks out from it, so she didn't want to risk running on that. So therefore, she became a crew, which she was supposed to be doing the race. And same with her parents, her mum. Sorry, again, she was supposed to do it as well, but then she had a knee issue flare up, so she couldn't do it. So those two sort of helped out, as well as her stepfather helped out with the crew. They sort of went half and half for me, and then also had my brothers come out, and a lot of other people in our run group were also out there and around helping. But those were the two of the main ones that we dialed in on what to do in between each lap, and if this happens, do this. If this happens, do that. And they were unreal, absolutely unreal.
Yeah, great. Now, as far as the mental side of things, like, was there one thing that you were most mindful of getting right as far as mindset goes?
A big one for me was just regardless of what happens, just like same with everyone, that whistle goes off, the cowbell goes off, and everyone wants to run out at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Was just stick to the plan. My plan was run 3 minutes, walk 2 minutes, and I basically did that from lap 1 to lap 40. Like nothing changed. Yeah. Every day loop was basically 43 minutes on the dot. Every night loop was 47 on the dot. Like nothing changed from lap 1 to lap 40. And if someone's zoomed past me, whatever. If someone wanted to run quicker, I'll hang back. I'll do my own plan. I knew that worked. I practiced that. So therefore, that was a big one in my mind. Just don't get caught up in someone else's race. If someone wants to run faster than you, let them run faster than you. And obviously with the heat as well, right? You don't want to be running too quick and cook yourself on day one when you know there was another 40-degree day coming day two. So that was a big thing as well. Just to stick to the plan basically with nutrition and with obviously the running side of it too.
It looks, I mean, I don't know the course that well, but I know it was hot, but I didn't see any shady spots like on the course. Was there shade?
Not much shade at all. There's a little bit once the sun sort of goes down a little bit, or when it's just coming up, there's a little bit behind some of the trees. But yeah, you're right. There's not much shade on there at all. So when the sun was up, it was up.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the 3-2 run for 3 minutes, walk for 2 minutes. What type of pace were you running for those 3 minutes?
I didn't really have a plan of what pace. I just ran to feel sort of thing, but it sort of ended up being the same pace the whole time because I was finishing at the same time every lap. But I'd say it would have been about a 5:30 pace run, and then walk. I've never tracked my walking pace, but whatever I walked at. Generally it was 3 and 2, but then after a little bit it would be like a landmark. I'd like, okay, let's just get to here and then walk that hill. That might have been 3 minutes 10, for example, but it would just be roughly around that, and then I'd sort of walk to the landmarks.
Yeah. And is that the same strategy that you've used at the other two, like a 3-2 strategy?
No, so this was the first time we did 3-2. The last one we did 6 and 4. So basically double it. And I was still finishing around the same time, but I just found it's funny, like if you're running through the middle of a lap and you're sore or your legs are heavy or your mind's about to give up, you're just like, I can run 3 minutes. I can run 3 minutes. And even if I can't, if I get through, say, 5 lots of 3 and 2, I'm already halfway through the lap. I've still got 17 minutes up my sleeve because I've been finishing in 43. So, I can walk for 5 minutes if I had to, and I'd still get back at, 45 minutes. I just broke it down as in 3 minutes. I can always run 3 minutes. Doesn't matter what pace, I can run 3 minutes.
Yeah, I like that. Because I guess it's easier doing the short blocks rather than if you're doing a 7-3, for example. Like 7 minutes can feel like a long time when you've been going for longer than 24 hours.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you say, you're 30 hours deep and I've got to run 1.5 Ks. That's a little bit different to running. I've got to run 3 minutes. I've got to run 500 meters. That's all I've got to run. Or it's a lot easier to process mentally running 3 minutes than it is to run 7, 8. Some people run 10 minutes. Some people run there were people there that was running the whole lap and it was like 40 degrees and I'm just like, whoa. And it ended up obviously cooking a few people a bit earlier, but 3-2 I found was the most manageable ratio for me.
Yeah, and the other good thing about it is that you can, if you are feeling good and you want to run a faster lap, you can run for longer than that. You don't have to run for only 3 minutes.
Exactly right. Yeah. So there's obviously plenty of room. Like, if you built your plan off run 8, run 2, and you want to go for a quicker lap, you all of a sudden run in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah,
That's a lot different to if you build your plan off 3 and 2 and you got to run for 6 minutes, and so be it. That's not as big of a jump as, running for 2 or 3K straight.
yeah, definitely. So we did mention how hot it was. I think I read somewhere it was the hottest night for 140 years or something like that. So and that was night one. So it must have been really hard. What techniques did you use to combat the heat?
Yeah, Lisa actually mentioned that, which is the race director. She mentioned that on once we finished that it was the hottest March night, in 150 years or something. Which, funnily enough, it played in my hand. I like the heat. I prefer the heat to the cold. And I knew, selfishly, the hotter it got, the better it was going to be for me. Because I run in the middle of the day all the time. So I run in the heat. Sometimes run in the morning. But yeah, in relation to the question, so I had like a little cold towel and stuff like that. I'd always have on me as soon as I got back into the chair. I did take it out on a few laps, but I found it sort of only really worked for the first K, and then it just felt something heavy was on me, so it made me even a little bit hotter.
Yeah.
I ended up taking out, I'm not a big sweater, so I usually only would take out one 250ml bottle on a lap. But then obviously when the heat kicked in, I started taking out 2 of them and getting through 2 of them pretty easily. But yeah, so obviously a little bit more electrolytes during the day, which funnily enough, on that probably led to those a couple of hours of stomach issues at night time. Whereas I started getting it and I sort of thought about it and I was like, hold up, I know the sun's gone down, it's still hot, but I'm not sweating as much as what I was during the day. As I just said, I'm not that big of a sweater at the best of times, and especially when the sun's not up, I'm not sweating that much at all. And I was still pumping through a fair bit of electrolytes, and it was probably too much sodium that I was having, which then caused a few stomach issues for probably about 3 hours, and then I just switched to water only, and it was gone. So that was another thing I learned in Gabby's program, that too much sodium can also lead to stomach issues. So yeah, I was pumping the sodium, pumping the electrolytes throughout the day with 500 mils, and then obviously more throughout when I was sitting in the chair. And then at night time, after those stomach issues, brought it back to water only, and I was good.
Yeah. So when you hit the 24-hour mark, for example, I mean, when I run a tough one, like I'll look around at whoever's left, and I'll just think to myself, all you people who are left are so tough. Like, were you thinking that kind? Were you looking around at who was left and just thinking, you guys are so tough because this hasn't been easy?
Yeah, there was probably more this year at 24 hours than there was last year, I think, from memory. Maybe only 1 or 2 more. And obviously, I think there was me and Johnny might have been the only 2 from last year that were still in there. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. Sorry if I've left someone out. But yeah, it was a tough 24 hours. But then, like, it was supposed to be hotter this next day, so that was the hardest part. Like starting again and then thinking today's going to be about 3 or 4 degrees hotter than yesterday, and then so yeah, as soon as that sun come up, it was hot. It was really hot, and as you said, there's no shade out there. Day 1, there was a little bit of clouds around, so it was sort of covered the sun a little bit. But then day 2, nothing, just sun. That was it.
So tell me a bit about John Berry, your assist. Like, I'm not 100% sure if this is correct, but like, is he one of like your clients, like one of your personal training clients?
Yeah, so not personal training. So we've I run a personal training business, but then I also run a run club, McInnes Movement, and it's sort of like a running subscription. We've got about 30 or 40 in that.
Yeah.
We're all a part or training for something, generally more half marathon side of things. And then there's a few that have jumped on the Backyard Ultra. But yeah, he's in that group with us. He's been there since day dot. And he's done basically all the ultras that I've done. He's done them as well. And yeah, thankfully, we're both out there doing laps with the last 2 this year.
Yeah. So it looks like he loves Backyard Ultras too. Were you working together or anything like that? Or did you have a lot of discussions pre-race about how you were going to run the race?
Yes, we always we do run together. He sticks with the 3-2 as well. We both did that. Basically, all of our group did that. All 7 of us stuck to 3-2, and there was probably 5 or 6 of us that were running together the whole time on the same schedule. And then, towards the back end, his Achilles was flaring up a little bit. Obviously, it was very hot. So he was a little bit behind. He switched and went 2-3. So run 2, walk 3. But up until that point, we were starting every lap together, finishing every lap together, basically the whole time.
Yeah, unreal. And were your was your run group all set up together, like with marquees next to each other and stuff like that too?
So yeah, because obviously it's first in best dress there. Three of us were right next to each other, and then there was about three on straight opposite us, basically, but straight near us, but right opposite on the other side of the track. So we're all very close together, essentially. But yeah, so it was good to obviously have our crew that weren't running be able to just walk between the tents quite easily, being next to each other and help each other out if we needed something or whatever. We're right next to each other.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess all the crew probably were familiar with each other, and they could all hang
Yeah,
out.
we all generally run with each other, 3 or 4 days a week anyway.
Yeah,
So everyone, it was really good.
yeah, unreal. Now, so you not only ran a PB, but you were last one standing as well. And I mean, some people say the backyard ultras are 90% mental and 10% physical. So, how important would you say the mental side of your performance was?
Um, yeah, couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah,
Definitely is because I think it might have been Sam Harvey that once said it. That he said everyone's hurting after about 8 or 10 hours anyway. Like everyone's hurting to a degree. Then it's just about who can put up with the pain the longest, right?
yeah,
Um, Unless obviously you snap your ankle or something like that, or you get a really bad injury, it just comes down to who can put up with whatever the discomfort is, whether it's quads, whether it's calves, hemis, whether it's the heat, whether it's whatever stomach issues. I guess it's all about then just problem solving any problem that comes up to try to neutralize that. And that's another big thing. I think problem solving anything that comes. It's almost like just a whole race is about problem solving, right? Who can
yeah.
solve the problems the quickest to move on and get to the next one before the next problem arises. And just having plans in place of if anything does go wrong, what do we do from here, and making sure the crew obviously know about that as well.
So, I mean, I'm sure that you would have seen on like Instagram, like how Ryan Crawford and James Blanton, they'll do like 24-hour challenges
Yep.
and they'll do a yard, and then in between yards they'll do like kickboxing and stuff like that, for example. It looks like absolute hell. um, do you put yourself through really tough training situations like that just to kind of like strengthen the mind and put yourself through those tough like situations in training before the race?
I haven't, not to the extent like that where I've gone for hours. I'd have to probably take a few days off work to do it. But like things like I'll regularly wake up at in the twos to go for a run by 3 a.m. Those backyard the simulation runs we did. Some of them I was starting at 3 o'clock in the morning. So things like that where I'm running 5-6 hours before most people even get out of bed. But not to the extent where I'm going overnight and doing their camps for 24 hours overnight. I'd love to do it. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't do any of that in the lead up.
Okay, yeah. Do you feel like your mental side has improved since your first one?
Yeah, I definitely think it has. I think also the confidence has improved a little bit too, which obviously then is like a bit of a snowball effect onto the mental side of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're confident in your own ability, right, your mental game's going to be a little bit stronger. If you're not confident in your ability, then obviously the mental side's not. So I was quite confident heading into it that I'd be up there unless my stomach issues popped up again. I knew my legs would be fine. Like I knew I'd probably have up there with the most volume ran. Not that that translates into a victory necessarily, but I knew my legs would be fit enough. My legs would be strong enough to go longer than anyone else. And then when I saw the heat, I knew that would play into my role. I just had to make sure that nutrition plan was stuck to.
Yeah.
And then obviously if that all went well, I was pretty confident that I'd be able to get through it.
Yeah, sure. Um, what's the longest training run you've done? Like about, how some people like will do like 4 or 5 hours or 4 or 5 yards at home just to
Yep.
practice things like that. What's the longest you've done one of them for before a race?
The longest one of them I think was 8 hours.
Yeah.
So I did a 7 hour one, then we did an 8 hour one, then we did a 3 hour one. And then in between those ones, might have done like a 5 or 6 hour just where it was just a run straight, like it wasn't the loops, where so I'd get time on feet there, so I'd get a lot more distance in that one. But then the other one where I'd do 7 or 8 hours, that'd be the actual backyard ultra laps style, just so you get a bit of both. So then I get a lot more volume in the 6 hour straight running, and then obviously more game practice sort of thing in the backyard ultra loops for 8 hours.
Yeah, unreal. So the video of you finishing the 40th yard, I mean, you looked really strong. I mean, you were moving like you were just getting started. So, did you feel as good as you looked?
Without sounding like a knob, I did. I actually felt really good. My legs felt really good. And so that last lap, I think, was 38 minutes or something, which is the quickest one I've ever done.
Yeah.
But that was obviously, I just ran the whole thing. I didn't walk any of it apart from one little hill. But yeah, my legs felt really, really good. And they felt good from start to finish, basically. There was maybe a lap or two in there. The quads were a little bit sore. But other than that, the legs felt really, really good. And they felt really good the first time. The first one back in Maruba last year. They felt really good then, which was just annoying that other things obviously popped up. But yeah, this time legs felt amazing at the end of it.
Yeah. And it sounds like you knew that it was going to be your last loop. So did John shake your hand at this in the starting corral before 40 started, or how did that happen?
He started 40, and I said, I'm not sure if you know the exact loops. You sort of go out maybe 300-400 meters and then loop back to the starting line again. So you cross the starting line, finishing line at about 700 meters in. Yeah. And so he started the lap, we went out, and then I was looping back, and he had stopped along the first little stretch and just shook my hand, gave me a hug, and said, "Go do it, mate." Finished off the lap. I'm out. So then just kept running after that.
Yeah, unreal. And what did it feel like to be the last one standing?
Yeah, it felt really good. Obviously, I was due for everything to sort of fall into place after the first couple. But yeah, it was just more of a relief that the nutrition held up, everything went to plan, the crew was fantastic, and just everything sort of gelled on the day. Obviously, I didn't get the monsoon rains this year. I got some heat, which I like. And yeah, it was obviously a very good lap to be out there by myself. Unfortunately, I was sharing it with a motorbike that was doing some laps out there too for some reason, some little kids. But no, it was a good lap. It was really good.
Yeah, and leading into the race, were you just thinking the goal is to be the last one standing, and that was basically it?
To a degree, yes. It was either be the last one standing or obviously be up there. But also, I wanted to sort of, if I wasn't the last one standing, I wanted to try to push that 2-day barrier. Yeah. Which obviously, if you don't get the 2-day barrier, but you're the last one standing, I guess that's obviously, you take that as well. But yeah, I wanted to try to go 48 hours or if not, win it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds as though like you would have done 48 hours.
Yeah, as I said, I felt really good in this one. I felt like I could have gone definitely to the next morning. And then obviously what happened on the next day, well, that's anyone's guess. But yeah, the legs felt really good. Mine was good. I didn't really sleep at all, so that would have been interesting coming into the next day after 48 hours of no sleep, how the body would have reacted. But at the time, I was feeling really good.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's impossible not to be impressed by the performance. It must have given you a lot of confidence as well moving forward. So, I mean, do you feel like you're just getting started with backyard ultras?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. Obviously, probably next year I want to have a crack at trying to make the satellite team if I can. Yep. I got a few nice messages from Tim Kasparak and James Blanton after it. Yep. So yeah, the goal would be probably next year, early on in the year, whether I haven't sort of figured out which one I'll do, whether I go Maroubra and then Reds, or the Maroubra and the Sydney one clash, right? They're only a couple of weeks apart, so I can't really do them. So I sort of still definitely want to do the I'm Still Standing one at Maroubra, and then it could well look like I do Reds maybe in July, August, or whenever that one is, down in Wollongong, and then see how that goes there.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, because Reds is not only a silver ticket race, but you know that like there's going to be runners there who are going to go long. So,
exactly right.
Yeah, so even if you don't win, you can still get in on if you run enough yards.
Yeah, that's exactly what Tim was telling me. He told me there's a couple of obviously silver ticket events close by near to me. Obviously, Wollongong's easy. That's 40 minutes away. And obviously that's where the satellites are run next year as well. So that'd be good to get a couple of loops out on that course as well. That would be ideal. Obviously, Maroubra in March, if they go around again, which I'm assuming they will. And then Reds, obviously, in that July, August period. And obviously try to push, who knows what it might be. It might be 60 hours by then. Who knows what it'll be. But yeah, that would be the plan of attack for next year.
Yeah, perfect. And what about the rest of this year? Any backyard ultras planned for this year?
No, there won't be any ultras this year. I've got a ticket into Sydney Marathon and Melbourne Marathon this year. Hi. So I'll drop back. I'm going to try to improve on the time from Goldie. for the rest of this year, and I'm also getting married at the end of this year. So it's a busy end of the year this year. And then obviously then with a plan to next year have a good crack at trying to get on that Australian team, whatever the number might be. Try to see how we go. Just keep the mileage up this year. And then obviously another 12 months under your belt. You'd like to think I could hopefully go a little bit more. And then, see how we are next year.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I was going to say, are you going to go to Dead Cow Gully? But you've kind of answered that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Like, there's a lot of good runners going there. There's a lot of good runners in Sydney as well, right?
Yeah.
It would be something that would be good to go up there, but then that would also involve driving 6 to 8 hours, and we know how that ended last time. So yeah, it would be something that I would like to do. But there's a lot of good runners going over there. I think the world record will probably be broken up there if it's not broken in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be definitely watching along on the live stream that you're running over those few days, and who knows how long they'll go for.
Yeah. Are you going to go to Sydney's just to watch or crew anyone, for example?
I don't know anyone personally that's doing it. A couple of guys that I know that are doing it. But no, I'll probably try to pop out there, at some stage, but I won't be crewing anyone out there. I haven't been asked to crew anyone. But yeah, I'll generally want to try to get out there just to see the guys run. Obviously, Phil's going to be there, James, Ryan. There's going to be quite a few, obviously, good runners out there. So I wouldn't mind watching them do their thing out there.
Yeah, there will be a lot of fun being there just to watch. Yeah, and you did mention Costa Cozzy. Are you going to throw your hat in the ring for Costa Cozzy?
I won't be able to this year because I'll be on my honeymoon.
Yeah.
But it still is a goal that I want to do. Whether obviously probably won't be next year, it might be the year after. At some stage, I'm not in any rush to do it. Lisa, the race director of I'm Still Standing, she's done it the last couple of years. So I spoke to her a little bit about it. But yeah, it's definitely something I still want to do. But obviously, it's going to have to be on the back burner a little bit now with the marathons this year, the wedding, and then next year, a couple of backyard ultras, and then see how we go.
Yeah, and you also mentioned 24-hour races as well. So it sounds like they're on the radar too. So have you got any races planned for 24 hours?
That was that was mainly on the radar because that was the qualification for the Costa Cozzy. And that was really the only other option I had for that year to qualify, because I think you have to do two 200-milers or some, 2 100-mile races under certain times and stuff to qualify. And when I was looking, that was basically the only option I had, was to do that around the athletics track for 24 hours. But no, so not this year. As I said, I've got a couple of marathons, got probably a half marathon in there as well this year. And then next year I'll look to probably obviously do Maroubra in March, and then most likely it looks like it's going to be Wollongong, Red's Backyard in August or July, whatever month it's in.
Yep, cool. And hopefully the Sat Champs.
And hopefully back down there again in a few months' time.
Yeah, unreal. So, Mitch, I believe you listen to the podcast, so you might know that I asked my guests for their 3 backyard ultra tips. What are your 3 backyard ultra tips?
I'm prepared for you, mate. I'm prepared. The first one, which I've touched on a little bit, was always have a plan for what you need each lap. That's nutrition-based. So, for example, as I just mentioned before, Gabby gave me a spreadsheet to fill out, and that had exactly what hydration I needed during my lap, the hydration I needed after my lap, the fuel I needed during my lap, the fuel I needed after my lap. And then, so while I'm out on the lap, my crew just, boom, look at the spreadsheet. All right, sweet, we're having a hand wrap this lap with some Gatorade. Boom, it's there. Less stressful for them. It's super stressful already for crew people. To crew people for that long, they're obviously a bit sleep deprived as well. So just making it super simple and easy for them will then allow it to be less chaotic, less stressful when you get back in the chair, rather than going, oh yeah, I might have this, I might have that, and then they're going to go and look for it. And some people might only have 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So just making it a lot easier for them with a bit of a plan of attack in relation to what you're going to have. Obviously, you can deviate a little bit off it if you need to, but yeah, make things as easy as possible for their crew.
Yeah.
And then the second one was, funnily enough, this is probably what helped me the most, was run in all conditions. So obviously, as you know, if you want to do a 24-hour run, right, or get 24 hours in the bank in a backyard ultra, you're running at 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 p.m., midday. You're running every other day, right? So if you, always do your training at 3, 4 a.m. before the sun comes up, and then all of a sudden, like we did, you get a 40-degree day, your body's probably not going to be prepared and ready for running in 40 degrees, right? So if it's really hot, get out there. I know it's obviously hydrate well as well. Have some breaks if you need to, but if it's a real hot day, don't just stop for that treadmill run. If it's a real same thing from the year before, if it's pouring down rain, get out there and run in the rain. You know, you're not going to know if your favorite pants or favorite shirt chafes you, right? Like I did, I found out the hard way. So run in those conditions, test everything out in those conditions, and therefore come race day, you know, you're covered for all conditions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And then lastly would be, if possible, it's not obviously possible for everyone, but have sort of 2 groups of crew if you can. So I sort of had my partner did like the first 6, 7, 8 hours, and then she went home for 6 or 7 or 8 hours, had a sleep, had a shower, I got changed, whatever, and then came back in the morning and then did like the next 8 hours. And then the people who did overnight, they went home, you know, had a sleep, sort of subbed out. So therefore, you know, they're the ones that are bringing the energy to your crew, right? So when you come back in the chair, they're not, you know, half falling asleep in the middle of a lap. And you got to wake them up when you get back. You know, you want them to give you some energy, right? Not zap some more energy off you. So definitely having that if you can, even if it's, you know, one swap out for them, just so then they can get home, get some rest, and then they can bring you some more energy and lift you up in between laps when you're 30 hours deep, if that makes sense. So then, yeah, just a little bit more energy for them.
Yeah, perfect. Were all your crew there for when you finished, or were some people subbed out asleep in bed?
Yeah, so we finished at about 11 p.m. So it wasn't all of them, but there was a fair whack of people that stayed till 11 p.m. I'm not going to say there were heaps of others there. It was basically just the race directors and our crew. That was it. As I said, this time it was windy. Like there was trees that were falling down. And then I said there was a motorbike out there. Some kids stole a motorbike and were riding around. Police record. I actually thought I was hallucinating at that stage. I saw a motorbike riding towards me. But yeah, as I said, it was all happening in the last couple of hours. But yeah, there weren't that many people that stuck around. It was just a few of our crew, and then the race directors and a couple of volunteers and a couple of other.
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal. I mean, when Sean Lyons was on the podcast a little while ago, he talked about how he finished his last loop, and even the assist had gone home. Everyone had
Yeah, there's thankfully some of our crew stayed around. If they didn't, it would have been a finish in front of 2 or 3 people. Thankfully there was a few there because then they can also help pack up.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a struggle packing up after 40 hours of running by yourself.
Oh,
so, yeah, they were all really good. They were all still there. They had packed half of it up by the time I'd finished my loop anyway, which was good. And then we were out of there by 11:30.
Perfect. Now I forgot to ask about the sleep side of things. Like, is sleep one of the things you're good at between loops, or something you try?
Absolutely not. So the first one in Maroubra last year, I tried, and I'm like at the best time, so I'm not falling asleep in 10 minutes, right? Even if I'm the most tired I've ever been, I won't fall asleep in 5 or 10 minutes. So the first couple of ones I tried, and I sort of felt worse. Like, you know, you try to sort of get to sleep, and then you hear that 3 whistles, and you're like, crap, 3 minutes to go. And then you wake up, you feel worse, you feel groggy because you didn't actually get any sleep. So this time I just said, nah, I'm just going to get caffeine. No sleeps, not even going to try to sleep. I sort of just timed my caffeine, had some no-dos at about maybe 11 p.m., midnight on that first night. Felt amazing from it. Then sort of throughout the day, I might have a caffeine gel with a Coke, like a Coke in between the laps, a caffeine gel on the laps. Then I had a no-dose probably about 5, 6 p.m. on the second night. Again, that can be a huge boost. So, yeah, I just went caffeine strategically rather than any sleep. I don't know how long the caffeine would have kept working for. But, yeah, this time I was just, no sleep.
Yep. Okay. So caffeine was actually on your plan.
Yep. Yeah. So I had that plan. It was on the spreadsheet. It was this hour caffeine, this hour no dose, this hour Coke and a caffeine gel. It was pretty much planned to a T.
Yeah. Perfect. Do you remember how many hours you had between each caffeine?
About 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so if I had like the Coke and the gel, you know, that's not that much caffeine. It's probably only about 50 milligrams, right? So that was only a smaller one. But then when the no-dose, I'd have like that's 100 milligrams, I believe. So I'd have that, and then I'd generally wait about 6 hours before I'd have another little one, and then 6 hours, and I'd have a bigger one.
Yeah, perfect.
And it worked very well for me.
Yeah, unreal. And now, also, in hot weather, a lot of people find like eating an issue. Like, so did you have like just eating solid food? Is that a struggle for you, or?
Thankfully, I'm a big eater. I love eating food. So that was no real issue for me. It's only if the stomach started to play up, which again, I had plans in place for that, which brings me back to the problem solving. It's basically problem solving the whole time. If my stomach was to play up, it was strictly just a tailwind recovery drink. It'll give me, your 240 calories. It'll give you 10 grams of protein and whatever it is, 30 grams of carbs or 40 grams of carbs. Just that liquid for those few hours until the stomach settled. And then I'd just go straight back onto the food diet, the whole foods, and then whatever was on the plan, as long as that sounded appetizing, sweet, no dramas.
Yeah, yeah, they're delicious. Those Tailwind protein
But hey,
shakes.
salty
Yeah,
chocolate flavor, they're really
yeah,
good.
yeah. I actually learned just my own tip. I learned for my last backyard ultra, instead of taking in a whole bag full that you got to scoop,
Yeah,
the sachets are much easier for your crew because they just rip it open, put it in,
rip it
and
up. Yeah, yeah. See, I've had a few of them. I had the big bag this time. The first one, I had a few of them. Just unfortunately, I went through about 20 of them the first time because I just kept having stomach issues. But this time, I only really needed it for 2 laps, and that was it. So it wasn't too big of a deal. If it had gone on any longer, they probably would have got a bit angry at me and stick of making shakers every time. But luckily, yeah, it was all sorted after a couple of laps when I returned to water in between. On the laps. And then it was all sort of sweet and fine after that.
yeah, perfect. Well, look, I mean, thanks heaps for coming on. It's been really good chatting, and congratulations on that performance because I was watching at home. I couldn't believe um, how hot it was, first of all, and yeah, I mean, it was a great performance. I've got no doubt that you can make a strong play for that Australian team.
Yeah, thanks for that, mate. Yeah, fingers crossed. As I said, hopefully everything goes to plan. Next year we'll be having a crack at it.
Yeah.
If I don't obviously get one of those silver ticket events, hopefully I can run enough hours to get on the team. And if it's not meant to be. That's it. But yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully I can go a little bit further next year, and hopefully I'll be down at Wollongong.
Yeah, awesome. Well, look, yeah, awesome to meet you. Congratulations again. Yeah, and look, we'll definitely stay in touch.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it, mate.
Thanks.